Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to The Mouse Said the Butler Didn't Do It, a mystery series. We are now in our second story of Escape to a New Hope. And as I stated in the last video, there are certain names, as I was raised by my grandparents, Prussian and Polish, that I will not be pronouncing certain Russian names correctly. My dialect is different than what it would be. In doing so, when I do deal with a name that is vital to not only the story, but to actual history of a real person, I will endeavor to give you the correct spelling of their name so that you can look it up via Wikipedia or national news or world news. So, in the background, you are hearing the two puppies, Chuck and Maggie, growling back and forth. And the sound effect of the rapid-fire ammunition in our last video was actually caused by our cat, Logan, knocking over a recycle bin of aluminum cans, playing around with a toy. So that you will hear natural effects going on in the background of this. You two, please. Okay, be good. I will lift so you can see. This is our Chuck, who is Chihuahua. Maggie, where did you go to? Okay. Max, are you coming over to visit? No, you don't want to? Come here. And this is the mouse, who the stories are named for. Maggie Lou is running about here somewhere, being her typical little obnoxious self. Typical Chihuahua. So, onward to our story. So you will see, we are natural life, and I do not edit, as this is part of my world. Thank you for understanding, and I hope you enjoy this. Stop. Chapter 6. Dima worked as they bumped and thumped along. He shook the sleep from his eyes. He was still severely weak from his wounds that hadn't fully healed, and the ones he'd reopened with the use of the baseball bat as a weapon. He did not want to tell Annie that he'd recognized a difference in the uniform worn by the Russian soldier. He was from the special unit attached to the SVR, assigned to track problems within the military, and they had probably long ago been searching for the rogue commander of his unit. Dima himself did not want to be found, as this would not end well for the Ukraine family, or what was left of the one that helped a Russian soldier. They had stopped late night or very early in the morning, but it was only briefly. It was just long enough to eat some fruit and for him to scavenge, with Dennis's help, a few demolished Russian military vehicles they had come across. It looked as though this caravan had been spotted and came under attack from Ukrainian forces. More than likely from a combined land and air strike. The first truck had made it past as it was used as a decoy. The second was hit with a grenade launcher, and the first was attacked when it attempted to move on and blown to smithereens from a hit from above. The third looked as if it had been impacted by a tank that was hid and in waiting in the brush area of the roadside. The fourth, laying on its side, as it had gone off the road, it had overturned. In doing so, he explained, "I will not take Ukraine. They repair and put back in war to fight for freedom. I take Russia because we need, and they will be able to use against your people, who all they want is to be free." While Annie nursed Tatiana, he removed batteries, lights, cut wires, and took fuses. At one overturned transport truck, he and Dennis were able to put together a type of sled that they, with Ivana's help, had been able to tow back to their van. They were stopped short of doing so. They'd found several transport boxes of IRPs, Russian battle rations. The vehicle was worthless to them, as the front end lay twisted as the body was torqued. The cargo of food and water bottles strewn in all directions from the truck's flip as it had hit a roadside mortar in its attempt to escape the ambush of the caravan was apparent. It was obvious the Russian soldiers were now taken POW. Those that had survived the attack, that was. They would be held captive in a camp. And what he knew of the Ukrainian people, they'd be treated well. He kept the boy to the back of the pickup as he gathered boxes and items and unbroken water bottles, while he checked to see what other supplies may have been on the way to the Russians, with as they tried to skirt the surrounding of the Ukrainian army, who had contained them in another village. The ladies would be very pleased. He'd found 2 cases of not-so-soft Cyclocavac toilet tissue, along with several boxes of bandages, gauze, bottles of antibiotics, and of all things, female monthly products. They loaded their sled that included 2 cases of canned milk that would help Annie, if not for her to make formula for Tatiana, then for herself and the children to drink and get nutrition to help with vitamin D and give Annie extra breast milk to feed the baby. Dennis pointed to the front of the lead-wrecked truck. Dima shook his head and said in Ukraine, as Ivana arrived to help to pull the sled, "Is no good, too damaged." That was what he was dreaming about when he was woken by the large bump. There had been bodies in the front seat. The children had seen too much already in their lives and in this godforsaken war. To see 2 dead Russian soldiers would only add to the harm that was already done. He looked over at Annie as she drove. "We need to stop. You need rest. The babe needs you. I can drive." She stopped the truck to turn it off. "We need to go around Kiev. It is too dangerous to go through, but we need fuel. The tank, fuel is starting to go low," she stammered. "Remember when you asked about why I cut the old yellow hose from the wrecked water tank and took the cracked water container and told you would see?" "Yes," she nodded. "Now you see." He opened the door to get out. Annie did the same. The children were asleep in the back of the truck's fiberglass high cap that turned it into a delivery vehicle. He opened the lower back door by lifting, then slid out the installed counter. Dima pulled a box towards him. He had set it on the sofas and reached in for the containers he and Dennis found along the way. "What is this?" Annie looked at the metal jerry cans. He winked. We have been busy. The teacher shows the student. He carried the box to the side of the truck. Dima lifted the hose fitted the hose into the gas tank, then upended the cut-open water container. You hold this by the handle. Annie took hold of it as she blinked and squinted. So, the Ukraine beauty does not believe the nasty Russian boy, he joked. You take that back. I never say that. You are a good man, not nasty Russian boy. She made a face at him. When I was little, there was a nasty Ukraine boy. He called me Christ killer. Well, this Jewish girl beat him into the dirt. He was the mayor of the village, his son. After that, the village here of this. He no regain election to office, and they move. Not all Ukraine are good. Not all Russian are bad. You are good man. You no let anybody tell you different. I will not stand for that. She stamped her foot. She lowered her long lashes over her beautiful eyes. You will show me now, please. Dima smiled. Yes, you watch how gravity will work for us. He lifted the jerry can to pour its contents into the vehicle. The pain caused him to wince, but he held it still. A second jerry can was then emptied into the truck. The third of them followed. Then Dima put everything back. You know, Tatiana, we will wait. I listen. There is no movement of vehicles, tanks, or foots tromping through the lines. We are safe here. You feed. I will watch. Then you sleep. I will get us beyond Kiev. He helped her into the van. Annie took Tatiana from the makeshift bassinet of a wicker laundry basket and folded towels. She lifted the side of her shirt. Dima turned to the front windshield. He rubbed his beard. It sure felt a lot thicker than what it was the day he was shot. He looked into the broken side mirror. His hair was also much more advanced than what he thought it would be in the past few days. It was also trimmed. The back longer, the sides groomed into sideburns. The top and front looked as though it had been purposely trimmed to make him look younger than his 23 years. Annie? His beard was full and thick, yet groomed and trimmed to perfection. Dima did not recognize the man who stared back into his own deep brown eyes. You want to know how long you have been with us, no? Dima glanced down at the steering wheel. It is now the 12th of November. Dennis saw you go down the 18th of October. He watched as the officer picked up a rock and was going to bash your skull in. He screamed, drawing the evil one's attention and that of the other soldiers. He witnesses them butcher this one after he shoots one of them. They then leave their uniforms to change into clothes they have, probably they take from homes that things have been left behind to escape the village. And then they left you for dead and drive away. They never check to see if you still breathe. She turned in the seat to face him, then looked into the back of the truck at her sleeping siblings and back to him with a furrowed brow. I know how. Dennis had the courage to check you. You still live. He dragged you, struggle, through the village streets, over 20 streets from where this happened to our shelter. He does not talk after this, but writes a few words. The first word was fix. Second and third, make better. final, please." "You did not respond. A bullet grazed your head." She reached over to brush his bangs from the side of his head for him to see the scar that lay 2 inches above his eyebrow and an inch to the outside of his head. Her gentle touch sent a shiver down his spine, a feeling in all his life he'd only felt once before. When he looked at Irina, and she had ran her fingers down his cheek and smiled to wag her eyebrows. She was a young woman who came to teach at the orphanage where he and Peter were when he was at the age of 15. Peter had been transferred to another by then. And she laughed at him, then kissed him, and the next thing was he was told someone had informed the dorm supervisor and he was to be transferred out to another orphanage. He later found out that the dorm supervisor and she were both dismissed for being caught with a younger girl from outside of the orphanage and sentenced to a prison term. But this touch was completely different. This touch was full of caring, not of danger. "Ivana and I, we take out what we can. You still have bullet in bones of left shoulder and right hip. Are you all right?" She released his bangs and moved the baby to her other breast. "I went into labor an hour or so after you were at rest. I had my daughter next morning, and they take care of you. Ivina is very good nurse. She wants to be doctor of animals, a surgeon." Annie placed the baby on her shoulder to burp her as she had finished. He reached up to his beard, then touched his hair. That made Annie laugh. "She did this. Ivana thought you would look more handsome if it was groomed." She shrugged. She said, "You're very good looking, but sad also." "So very, very sad. I agree. I think she has a crush on you." Annie smiled. "She is very right." Annie blushed at that point. "You are very handsome and good man." She winked. That made Dima smile. "Where are your parents? Are you like me, orphan but from this no-good war?" She bit her lip and looked out the window. "Mama died giving Dennis life. Our papa was librarian at their school. He went to try to save some books for them. We no see him. I know he is dead. Then the school building, the library, it burns to the ground. Part of the war, like this little one." She rubbed her cheek against the baby's head. "I was working in my grandparents' bridal store. I hid when village was under siege. They found me as we tried to flee. A week later, he is one to break my family's door down. I have old M1895 Nugget revolver. Was from Bolshevik war. It is under the front seat of the van here. Some bullets are left. Both men are dead. Ivana, Dennis, and I, we are alive." She shrugged and turned from the seat. "Dima, I am tired. I lay her down and I sleep. We are in the hands of a good gentleman. You will drive, please." Annie settled the baby, then laid down next to Ivana in the back of the van. Chapter 7. Dima closed his eyes in thought for several moments. Opening them, he looked at the surrounding landscape. Dima knew he had no money. He didn't know what they may have. It couldn't be that much. They would need fuel, probably oil, and radiator fluid. What he had gotten from the military wrecks was dwindling. Moving away from the war's front in the east would mean less chance to siphon from the Russian pieces of shit. He would need to figure this out. He knew things. His dad taught him how to repair vehicles as a young man, and as he was at 3 before the man himself had died. In the orphanage, he had taken classes as well with 2 friends. Dima had owned his grandfather's mechanics books until he had been drafted. He had been forced to sell them along with all that he had, and his late friend and roommate, Yuri, had in the apartment, or they would have lost it all. In the murder of his best friend, Dima could no longer keep the apartment in Moscow. His first action was to close out the existing bank accounts that they had shared and to dwindle all of his that he could without closing it altogether. He had been forced to transfer to a small village of Vyborg to continue to teach. Vyborg was 150 kilometers from St. Petersburg. That was where he met Peter. Once again, the man was a year younger than himself, and he was an auto mechanic. They had been drafted together. Peter and his bubby's apartment was on the floor above him. This was where his apartment was when he received notice of his draft induction, and he had acted in all consciousness as to what he would need and wanted to do. Being raised an orphan gave him the chance of dodging Putin's draft. However, being raised an orphan did have an advantage. He had no one in Russia who cared what happened to him. And as his best friend Yuri was dead, what do it matter now? Dima shook his head. He looked back into the van. They matter here. That is all. I need to help them. He scrubbed his beard once more. In the orphanage, he'd studied hard and wanted to better himself and give himself the best chance he could in that of all trades they offered. He knew from extra classes he took that he'd left the orphanage with in plumbing, electrical, and construction, along with some automotive, because he wanted to build his own home someday. A home. But not here, not in Russia. A home where children can play in a yard without fear. Sadly, that is the dream of every parent. Is there such a place for them? As for me, there is nothing left to that life I once dreamed of. A teacher, yet I am a fugitive. I can only pray that we can escape to a new place, a new hope. He started the truck and growled to himself. Nyet, tools. He smacked himself in the forehead. Think, Dmitri, think. He put the truck in first gear and started out. What would my elders have done in times like this? Dima negotiated his way around through the area to slowly approach the higher elevation that he could look down on the once beautiful capital city. Now smoke rose over areas where fires had broken out from Russian missile attacks. Ruptured gas pipes contributed to the fires from collapsed residential buildings and destroyed businesses and smoldering of burned-out vehicles. Dima grumbled under his breath. Nothing but a madman would do this to humankind. He is another Hitler, only for himself and his political friends and their money's gains. You cost not only these innocent people's lives, but the mothers of Russia and their sons. We, you bastard, have lost over 1 million people. He wanted to scream at this bastard who now made his beloved Russian Federation the most hated country of all the world, along with what these idiot madmen of Hamas had done to the chosen peoples of Israel in the attack he had heard of on October 7th. He wondered how Israel was doing against these bastards who had attacked them the week before. The week before a special holiday. He worried about those that were missing and the children on both sides, and yet there were still hostages being held that had not been returned. Children are children. They know not how to hate unless they are taught, he grumbled to himself. Dima shook his head. Things were not good in the world today, the world that tiny Tatiana was born into just a mere month ago. Dima shook his head as he drove on. Coming along the southwest two-lane road, he saw a weather-beaten and bent sign that pointed the way to an on-ramp for 6YN Tapcoa, Lai Balap HKA. They would enter the road with no tolls in 20 minutes, and then it would be the true start of their 16-and-a-half-hour drive to freedom, out of Ukraine into Poland, and Annie said they needed to get into Germany. Annie wanted them to go to Berlin. She stated they had passports and visas. They would go away from Europe. All he had to do was keep the tank full. He would also have to make sure they ate, and somehow he needed to find work to earn money for them to get plane tickets, as she had the other items they would need to take flight. It will not be simple. May God have mercy on us. Then I will have to leave them, and I will need to find my own way to keep them safe. He drummed on the wheel as he drove on into the night. Chapter 8. 4 hours into the drive beyond Kyiv, they were 85 kilometers from the roundabout exit that would put them on T1019. Dima was looking at the fuel gauge. They had a quarter of a tank. That meant he would have to get off the road to refuel from the jerry cans they had, or he would need to figure out how to find, then lay his hands on fuel. He was determined he would not take from the peoples of Ukraine. Only thing he would take was the memories of this beautiful family who had saved his life. Where he would go and end up in the world, he did not know. He didn't really care at this point for himself. As long as he saw them safely on a flight to wherever they wanted to start over, that was all that would matter to him. He saw movement in the back of the truck. Dennis held on as he stood to stretch, then came forward with the Winnie the Pooh backpack. He slid into the passenger seat, still blinking the sleep out of his eyes. "Dennis, how are you?" Dima asked in Ukraine. He blew out a breath, scrubbed his head full of outrageous black waves, and gave him the thumbs up with a smile. He then leaned over to look at the gauges. Dennis pointed, then tapped the dash. "I know. I need to figure out a fuel source." Dennis started to look out the window. He reached over and quickly tapped Dima's hand on the shifter where it rested, then started pointing to the buildings a distance from the road. "What about the farms?" Dennis shook his head and pointed again, this time out the front windshield towards the approaching lights of a town. More movement drew him to look in the rearview mirror. It was Ivana as she held on with one hand and wiped her eyes with the other. The boy shook his head, then pointed to the gauge, then back to the farms, and shook his head and pointed once more to the closer set-together buildings. They were coming into a small town or village off of the roadside. I am yet stealing from these peoples. Wrecked Russian military shit is one thing. They are the aggressors. Your people. Yet, no, Dennis. He is not telling you that, Dima, came Ivana's voice. Calm down, please. Do not get upset. You will have... The blood is no good to... It will make you sick. You still need the calmness. Please. We will purchase the fuel now that we are able to find a place. How? I do not have a ruble to my name here, nor do I have a hryvnia of the Ukraine's people, and what I have in the bank back home. Putin, he has froze it to force those that refuse the draft, but could not get out of Russia. They, like me, are made to go into the army or starve to death. And he provides a pittance of money for our service and deaths. We are only permitted to take so much from our accounts each week that they are guarded and watched. Ivana turned into the rear of the truck to return with her own piglet bag. Show him, Dennis. Annie is too upset sometimes to think because of baby Tatiana's way she were that and that of Dim. We are no thieves, neither is our Dima. She gave Dennis her bag. The boy opened both of them to take out several ripped and torn envelopes and lifted the fold of the seal. Dima glanced down and his eyes shot back to the road. Putin, he has threatened our people for years. We sold all before the threat became real. We put everything away. Annie is still able to work at grandparents' bridal store until what, Irina? Dima asked. It is why she has baby Tatiana. Our home was no longer safe. Papa hid us in the bombed-out church. I know she did not tell you about Dim. He was at work with her. He was a designer like her. They make beautiful, gorgeous wedding and formal gowns and evening wear for men. They were trying to close down the shop with our grandparents, so we were soon to leave. They were engaged, even though they were cousins. No blood cousins, though. He was adopted, but the attack on the village came too soon. They couldn't get out. Yes, but only worse? She nodded. It was followed by the spillover into the streets of our own village. It was hand-to-hand, the unarmed peoples against armed Russian forces. There was no warning. They had no time to escape, as that area was first to be attacked by Russian infantry, and then the bombs fell. Buildings exploded, fires broke out, and when things seemed to settle, the looting and assaults began. She wiped a tear. What of the children? Dima dropped his head and glanced to her. We were hid in the basement of the school by Papa and the other teachers. Several children fled, but soldiers were waiting. They come through. The teachers were shot, children loaded in vehicles and taken. And you and Dennis? We wait until darkness to slip out and hide with Papa in wood. Later we find out when Annie, she come to us. They were trapped in the store, while one, he rapes her, the other beat Dim to death in front of her. They then murdered the old people, my grandparents, and 2 men who run the store that was next to them. They killed all and left Annie like they left you for dead." Dima sat there blinking. "And like he made us to leave Peter as well," he nodded. "Who is this Peter?" Ivana asked. "A friend that cash cop shot and killed. He dropped this like it was a hot potato and said no more about it. I am sorry for all involved in this nasty world, but our Annie, she starts to move. She took the money from the safe and register after they shoot and kill our grandparents. Grandfather still his words. He tell her to take and flee, find life for us. Gone. She finds the man next door. Mr. Krasnov-Kikoski tells her to take what is under the floor. He dies. She looks. She finds an old weapon and several small bags and 2 envelopes. He was son of Bolshevik. That are funds that the jeweler." Dima nodded his head. "Are they?" "No, not stolen from long ago. They were his family's. They were in the Tsar's court. They belonged to him. I not know all but stones and necklaces, chains, jewelry. She flees, hearing the soldiers coming back. She runs to home. 2 days later, Papa is burying. 2 soldiers break in the door. Annie, she hides me and Dennis and our puppy. She loads and fires. Boom, boom. They are dead. She no talk." "How did you end up in the church basement?" Dima asked. Ivana smiled. "That was Annie, too. Papa, he takes us to the church after she tells him she found food there and an opening in the side of it. That night the bombs fall. We run into basement. Building starts to collapse. In days that follow, we scrape for what we can find. Mama's and Grandma's things you save, and we try to survive. Oh, my God, please let such a beautiful woman be able to. Let her please forgive my peoples, as the innocent babe is part of us. God help us, please." He brushed away a tear, and he shuddered. Ivana rested a hand on his shoulder. "You no do this. Not you, not our Dima. She understands. She knows. Her bag, it carries all our information. We carry the funds and the gifts of the jewelry. Now, please find a place for us to purchase fuel and fill our cans before the tank goes too low." She plopped down between the seat on the floor as Dennis put the envelopes back in their hiding place. Dima drove 4 more kilometers. Then he pulled off after seeing a gas station. Ivana climbed out to enter the store. Moments later, she was back. "Fill all the cans and the tank. What is shoe size for you, please? They have small collection." He looked down at his socked feet as Dennis unloaded the cans. Dima told her, "You start to fill." She walked away. They filled 5 large jerry cans and the trunk's tank. Ivana returned to hand him a bag and set down 2 containers of antifreeze on the deck. "These should fit, maybe little big." Dima opened the bag to find a pair of decent used sneakers and several bottles of oil. "How you know what type of oil and antifreeze?" "I am not just a pretty face," she smiled. "I learned from Grandfather and Papa. It is Grandfather's old truck he gives to Annie when she graduates from designer school. Very early and top of her class. She is excellent designer. She is skilled in the history of royal and wedding gowns from all over the world. She's crazy for history of all over the world and the cultures of weddings from around the world, including that of Asia. She waved her hand as if to encompass them. They loaded the cans. He sat on the bumper to put on his new shoes and tie them. Dima climbed into the truck and started it. One moment. Ivina ran back to the store to return with 4 cups that steamed and a bag. She passed them to Dennis, where he sat on the floor. Ivana climbed into the passenger seat and closed the door. She reached down onto the floor where Dennis had set the tray to pass Dima a cup. I do not know if you like sugar and milk. I have both if you wish. She looked down at her brother to pass him a cup. You'll not have this in a long while. It's hot. Be careful. It's cocoa. Dennis smiled and nodded as he grasped it with both hands. We will need one of your cook trays later to reheat Annie's. No, we will not. A groggy voice came from the back. I am awake. Where are we? Dima told her as she looked out the window at the scenery. We will see later on the uptake as usual. That is our beautiful crazy sister, Ivina smiled. Dennis nodded in agreement. Thank you two very much. I will remember this, that I am slow on the uptake, she smiled. You are quite welcome. We will remind you quite more how crazy you are. It is already done. Here. Ivina passed her a cup. Check the bag behind the seat here. It should help you with the baby. Thank you for this. Annie sipped the cup. Oh, my goodness. Sweet hot tea with honey and lemon. Welcome. Dima, you need anything in your tea? No, yet, no. This is perfect. Thank you. And thank you for the sneakers. An extra pair of socks, and they will fit fine. Now, he looked into the rearview mirror. Big sister, in 5 hours we will be at border of Ukraine and Poland. How do you plan to have us cross? With wings? Maybe we fly like a bird? I don't think this truck can sprout wings. Ah, or maybe we float on a cloud. Ha, ha, ha. Better yet, my grandfather and my papa had a Russian bone record of an American band, Steppenwolf song, of something called a magic carpet ride. He laughed as he glanced at Dennis seated between the seats. Would you like to ride over the border on a magic carpet, Dennis? What would you say? The boy clapped his hands and nodded repeatedly and laughed. Annie laughed for the first time in a long while. To his ears it sounded like the chiming of crystal bells. You are such a silly Russian boy. It is good to laugh. Thank you so very much. When we stop for you to rest, and I take over to drive, I will explain all. You now know we have funds. You will see the rest. Annie looked into the bag behind the seat. Oh, bottles, diapers, wipes, T-shirts, nighties. Ivana! I put more away, do little more without before they attack. I wanted several Harry Potter books. I had saved for them and extra on the stories and background. But then they came, and bookstore is no more. It burned to ground. She shrugged. I scavenged the orchards and field a little more, and yes, I look a little closer into bombed-out homes for things we need. Food in dry goods, cans, bottled water. I'd look harder and search, as now I take my time. I know in and out. Instead, I find extra. They were saving too, only they have no time to retrieve, and they leave things in cookie jars, taped to bottom of drawers, in junk drawers, freezers, under rugs. back of closets' doors, under mattresses, and in books such as Bibles and prayer books, and in office files, hidden in toilet takes and under cushions. Annie blinked and looked at her. "You went into the bombed-out buildings and homes after Papa?" Annie was sputtering and started to shake. "He is dead." "Ivana." "Annie, he is dead. He no able to come back to tell us not to. We need it to survive." Annie blinked away her tears as as the realization finally hit her for the first time. "Oh, Papa." "Annie, he died in his precious library. We saw from under his desk." "What? How?" she asked. Ivana lowered her head and turned back to face the windshield. "Dima tried to stop that evil man. Then, 3 days later, She dropped her head to wipe her eyes. Dima glanced over. He blinked. Then he thought. So it was their father, the bastard, murdered in cold blood as he tried to protect his youngest 2 children. When Ivana raised her head, she still had tears spilling down her cheeks. "Papa is not there to tell me no. His grandbaby now has things she needs. You accept her better, like she is Dim's, or our Dima's now. You forget those evil men and what they do to you. Dim and our Papo and Mama. You will always love Dim, so act like she is his, or you give her to me. I will take care of her, and you only be wet nurse, until I find formula for her. She is only baby. None of this is her fault. You hear me, Anastasia?" She punched the dashboard. Annie jumped at her sister's actions. "So, stop being such a bitch over who may have fathered her, and be a mama to a baby who has only you and us." She wiped her tears. "We have extra. Just say thank you, Ivana, and try to fall in love again." "Ivana, Oh, shut up for once. You don't know it all. Dim would want that, not you being a nasty, rotten shiksta. He loved you playful, funny, crazy, and highly intelligent Annie, our Annie, who he gave that name of Anastasia. His Annie, Get Your Gun, his favorite musical, the brave one who protected us, not what this war has changed you into." Ivana turned to look out the side window, to flip her hand over her shoulder. "Bah! You never listen anyway. You never will. Annie knows it all. What an idiot she can be, Dima. You will learn. For all her smartness and education, she can be very stupid when it comes to real world. God help us all to be blessed with one such as she is. May Baba Yaga come and carry her away in her house that walks on chicken legs. This one, my sister, she has the brains of a sheep. Stupid." Annie inhaled and wiped her own tears, then swallowed hard. "Thank you, Auntie Ivana, from Tatiana and I. I will remember your lecture and ask you all to forgive me. I am so very sorry. And yes, I love Dim very much. I will try to do this for him and for you all." She gave a nod and was silent as she sipped her tea. Chapter 9. For 4 hours, they watched the scenery as they changed from roadway to roadway, through roundabouts and off-ramps. Finally, Dima put on a turn signal and pulled to the side of the road. "I need rest. I will take over." They'd stopped to eat and for Annie and Ivina to check his wounds that he had opened earlier on the journey by using the bat to get them clear of the village and the seemingly now infiltrated Russian soldiers. I will now show you how we get across border and why you scared the hell out of us when Dennis drug you home and why he is fascinated by you and why he follows you. Annie opened her own bag. She laid out the birth certificates, including Dim's, their visas, then passports. She handed him Dim's items, including his driver's license. Look, Dima, look very closely. Staring back at him was a young man with the wavy dark brown hair that his had become. The sparkling brown eyes from before the war came to this country, and his fair skin hidden by the trimmed mustache and beard. It was him, 7 years ago, but not him. It was Dim at age 16, only 2 years before. He thought I was this man, this cousin of yours, ghost? Dennis shook his head. He pointed to Dima, then touched his heart and opened his arms. Dima looked from the boy to her. God gave Dim back to us in the form of a gentle and good Russian Jewish man who saved his life, and now I understand. You tried to save our father. Annie looked into his eyes. So it has he, and then us, thinking you could be good. We are right. You are very good man, and need to be taken care of and kept safe. We will do so. A papa to Tatiana, if her mama will want. Dima dropped his head. I failed at stopping Kashkov. Failed miserably. I am so very sorry. Ivina pushed him. He hit you in the belly, then the back of the head. He murders Papa as you lay there defenseless. Papa's last words were, the boy is good man, so much like Dim was. Then he was gone. Annie looked to her sister and then to Dima. We arrive in Berlin. We will all talk. If you wish to leave and go on your own, we will understand, and we will give you Dim's items. You get visa for wherever you want. We will pay for it and the ticket. Annie gathered the items to put away. I tell you, Ivina shook her head. She no listen to the words that are spoken to her. Such a ditch! Annie, listen to what he has just said to you. Get the porridge out of your ears and use what little brains haven't seeped from them. What? Oy vey, the girl shook her head. Dima held up a hand. Where do you plan on calling your new home? The United States of America, Annie answered. In what state? We will research when we get a mobile phone, and I can use the airport internet. My laptop is no good without Wi-Fi for internet and have no charge in its batteries. Dima closed his eyes and wrapped his arms around himself and nodded. Dima, what is wrong? Did I say something that is wrong? Annie placed her hand on his shoulder and looked at Ivina. The girl crossed her arms over her chest. You really know how to talk and upset the man, don't you? You did not listen to what he says. You roll over him like Dim used to say. Annie has no ears about her own life. It will not happen with Tatiana. We will not allow it. Dim may have been wrong about your intelligence. You are idiot sister. She wrapped her arms around Dima, as did Dennis. What did I not hear? I am at a loss. He offered to be papa to Tatiana if her stupid shitsta of a mother would open her closed heart and remove the muffle covered over her ears and that is filled with porridge. Oh, I am sorry. I speak before I listen. Oh, Dima, Annie, shut up! Ivina shouted at her. Annie bit her lower lip and smacked herself in the forehead. It's okay. They no listen to us in orphanage either. He shrugged. No, I just feel like I found a family that I did not have for 20 years. And now when we arrive in Berlin airport, I will lose everything again. There is no one for me in Russia. I have no family. The friend I had in the orphanage, Yuri, he died on the street. Yuri came out of work as a waiter at White Rabbit in Moscow. They thought because of his uniform was a tuxedo, he was a wealthy customer. He was murdered for his bus ticket, €2, $10 American, and 117 rubles. Then there was Peter. Peter I know from the village, and he was in orphanage too at one time, till his grandmother took him. He is now gone too, thanks to this evil man. Dennis looked up at Annie as he still wrapped his arms around Dima to cling to him. Annie pulled them to her. Ivina stomped her foot. Dennis wrapped both arms around the two of them and squished them together. Pennsylvania, USA. That is where we will go. The first capital of there was Philadelphia. That is beautiful area north. The ground is fertile for planting. We are not letting our Dima to be left all alone. Besides, I see the way our idiot sister, the Shiksta, Anastasia, looks at our Dima. She is starting to fall in love with him. All we have to do is to have the man fall in love with the love-struck idiot again, and I think I like the word shiksta. It fit her at times when she is a featherbrain. Thank you very much, little Yenta, for letting the world know. Annie put her hand under Dima's chin to raise his head. I am sorry. You will forgive this idiot Shiksta, as my sister calls me, who stands before the handsome Russian man. His answer was a smile, and for him to lean down and gently kiss her full, beautiful lips. When he broke the kiss, he asked, how do we deal with the last name being the same? It is Ukraine, and it translates to white in English, a common name as is Smith, Jones, Black, Brown in the Americas. Besides, Ivina took his hand in hers. Dim, as I explained to you, was not blood related to us. Our uncle adopted him when he married Dim's mother. He was from her first marriage. That was all in the paperwork as well. We are not going to leave you ever. Annie kissed him once more. Now, you need to rest. I will drive. All will be well. They put the items back in the truck and got him settled in the back with a few extra blankets under him and a light sheet over. Ivina sat up front as Dennis laid next to Dim to read a beat-up book. Annie drove on to the Poland border. She handed the border guard their paperwork. He asked to look in the back. She opened the back for him to check. He shined the light at an angle at Dim and Dennis, not wanting to disturb the sleeping child and the resting man that she told him did the driving all day. He looked at the ID and the passport photo. He gave a nod. May your peoples kick Putin's butt. She smiled. Thank you. Annie got back in the truck to put the items away, safely driving the man, she said in Polish. Safe driving, the man said in Polish. She nodded and drove into Poland. Chapter 10. Rain pelted the windows of the office of the SVR located in Yazanov district of Moscow, Russian. Kita Kashkov read the report that came via GRU. In the other terms of the Federation of Russian Military Intelligence Agency. Damn it, he spoke in Russian as he threw the papers on his desk. He was put in charge of this detail to get close to the man, befriend him, and get those goddamned photos. And what does he do? He threw himself onto the desk chair and cursed the day his younger asshole of a brother was even born. The other office door opened, and his secretary said in Russian, "Good morning, General." There were words from him. Da, she answered. Kita looked at the documents once more. He should have been dead and birthed. Less trouble for both my family and myself. He is given this to personally handle it, and what does he do? He is drunk and shoots the man we need to retrieve from this war and secure in a prison, and then gets these damned items and saves not only our asses, but the one who is stupid enough to pull this shit that he does and gets his ass out of the trouble he has caused himself and is a very dangerous man from off of the fucking world stage and protect our leader from his own greed and stupidity. Then this idiot who can never take orders gets himself slaughtered. The man rubbed his forehead and started to think. How can I now to inform the members of the State Kremlin Palace, much less send word to the Grand Kremlin Palace and the President of Russia that a 23-year-old primary school student teacher holds this man's future in his grasp and could very well destroy him on the world stage and increase the dangers of him being charged with even more world crimes, not only in wartime, but also as he connected to who he is connected to and the crisis that has rose. Even worse if these items get out to public and the connection sees their own faces involved. Our president may have signed both his own death warrant and that of the big man walking free and clear on these streets of Moscow. Oh, we are fucked here in Russia to begin with, and Igor has screwed me royally. Kita drummed on the desk. Then again, I may be dead at the hands of my own mother over the death of her precious baby boy, and the fact that he is not my father's child, but, dare I say, a former leader's name? I dare not, lest these walls have ears. It was bad enough the world wanted his former KGB leader, now commander of the Russian Federation, on a worldwide arrest warrant for charges of war crimes involving the kidnapping of Ukrainian children. But if they ever put these connections together, and that bastard Alexandre Litvinenko, Litvinenko, and the journalist Anna Polakova, Polilkovskaya, accusations with the photos. Holy hell, there will be death for us all. Kita's intercom rang. He pressed the button. Da, there is a gentleman to see you, his secretary said. Who? When he heard the response, he swallowed hard. Shall I send him in? Da. He turned from the window and watched the door. Please let these issues with these idiots of Hamas and Israel be more predominant than what we can cover up here. Keita looked up as the general from the GRU walked in. How many personnel have we lost in this situation? Casualties, POWs, wounded, or traitors? He asked the man who he could only, in his wildest dreams, wish that he himself held the ear of their second-in-command only to the President of Russia. Of your brother Igor's platoon, three are found dead there. Himself is obvious, and from very interesting and odd witness, after he shoots this teacher, the men turn on him. Give me account, sir. 3 dead, including himself. 2 accounted for as POWs. 10 unaccounted for, presumed by their abandoned uniforms that were burned near where your brother's body or parts of his body was found, that they are AWOL or are traitors. 7 we know have Ukraine relations. They may now be what are being called Ukrainian Russian freedom fighters, with our own weapons against us on our opponent's side. As of 2 days ago, 1 wounded of our intel officers, but not by normal means. He tried to stop a fleeing truck from some type of village near the bombed-out town of Kolmazhekova. Keita tapped his chin. I thought they were trapped there, and the village was completely abandoned from the intelligence photos we received. I was told that was where they were backed into, and that our people had the area surrounded and were in process of taking control. The village had been completely destroyed, and they were searching for his remains. Now you tell me there were people left there who somehow got past your special forces unit to collect this man and the intel that is to be presented to our president? A misdirection of poor intel, he growled. Along with the intelligence officer I spoke to, there were 3 more involved in the incident that took place in this hunt for your brother. 1 of our men was repeatedly shot at close range from up high on a building and from an upper window. He loses his leg. 2 others at the checkpoint were almost run down by, they say, 3 or 4 vehicles. No identification was able to be gotten on these or of them, although they are described as light-colored trucks with marker on them. Humane rescue, like the Red Cross? Keita asked. It's very possible. They would want to get out of the war zone. However, the general continued, there were a few holdouts. Apparently, Igor did not investigate thoroughly enough. He killed the last man he came in contact with, then set the building on fire. He did not report to anyone else in the area. However, there appears to be several that Igor missed on his investigation of this said village. A woman and 2 children. He was KGB and SVR, not GRU, or military trained. He was placed with a lieutenant colonel to guide him. The general raised an eyebrow and tipped his head. Very true. Then maybe he should have not murdered the man in order to take over command to do as he damn well pleased. Would you not say that? Excuse me? Oh, da! You do not know, do you? We have retrieved the lieutenant colonel's body. Keita leaned forward. And Bullets found in his body proved he was shot in the back, and as it was known, he was reporting back to us in the fairing in the attempt to retrieve what was given orders for. You are telling me he was one of your men, and what? Keita, your brother was under surveillance for many months. He was a known blackmailer, and when he took his assignment, can you explain why his bank accounts seemed to have dried up within several days of their notice of deployment? The man sat back. He wanted to say that Igor was trained by the man he was sent to retrieve the photos for. On second thought, accusing their leader of being a blackmailer himself was not such a good idea to start out this day with, especially with it being Putin. I did not know of any of this. You have brought me news. My mother would be surprised, as would my late father. Ah, so you tell me what happened out there. I do not know. I know not why he would decide to do as you have informed me. I do. The general paced back and forth. He thought to get the photos and use them for his own financial gains. But when he realized the commanding officer knew of his plans through his own intelligence communication, he chose to take the chance and take over the assignment. When, as it and things turned out, he did not know his asshole from a hole in the ground and could not find it with both hands and your assistance. What? The man tapped his hip as he turned. I see you are slack in knowing. Intelligence informed us 6 weeks ago he went rogue. He murdered Roscoff, then proceeded on a human carnage until they were hunted by the paramilitary forces of the Ukraine specialist and forced back into the dissolved and desolate village that we took just short year ago. I had no idea of this, sir. Keita placed both fists on his desk. The general pulled a cigar case from his pocket to open and selected one, returned the case to clip the end, then lit it with a strike of a match on Keita's desk. He puffed until it was lit and blew out a cloud. In doing so with the carnage he did, we had to send in a team to engage and lost multiple men, weapons, and armament, not to mention the fact that we had to create an airlift to get our people that remained out of there, including one of our best men who has not spoken since half his head has been crushed by a blow of some type. As it is, he cannot tell us of what was used. Now, because of his actions, that of your brother, we have lost territory and multiple supplies and equipment, and our own soldiers are turning to our enemy and fighting for them. Keita began to cough as the stringent odor of the cigar filled the office. Sir, if I had more... Remember your place, Keita. If you had taken care of the issue before a 5-year-old boy took a family photo album to show for National Pride Day and done the proper job of retrieving those accursed photos, Litvinenko would not have had the chance to receive confirmation from and for the journalist at the day of the celebration with children at a camp day of safety from the future leader. Then, because you caused the death of the one she first spoke to, she was advised and took her chance as she was given the chance to put the boy out of our reach in another orphanage. Therefore, the photos went with him and were lost for us altogether. Keita squirmed in his seat. It had been stupid on his part to trust Igor with the assignment in those years prior to his own advancement in the SVR, and this was why he was stuck in Moscow as it began to get cold, and not on the tropical beach somewhere like the Caribbean or the French Riviera or the Mediterranean like that of Italy or Montenegro. She died in the elevator with the location of the boy only known to her, and then he dies in London without her people receiving an answer. They seeks. Keita Kashkov leaned back in his chair to drum on its arms. Dmitri is not one of the dead, then? I thought if he were. Niet! Our intel, the wounded soldier, Protopopkov. His wounds are now life-threatening. He was made to look like asses my wife's family are. His wounds consist of shattered left hand, 2 broken wrists, fractured forearm, a shattered jaw, multiple facial fractures. And now we have been informed the blow struck to the head has caused fragmented pieces of skull to penetrate the right side of his brain. The skull is practically crushed by the blow he was stricken with. Whatever hit him was with sheer determination in the strike to prevent him from following, and the power is that of nothing any doctor has seen to do that amount of damage from 2 single blows. And yes, there were 2. This is where and when the second attack on comrade took place from one of the nearby buildings. They not know from which, and when they were found, the vehicle and person of the building were gone. They do not expect him to live much longer, and we only have a very brief description of the vehicle and that of the driver and man who is his attacker. This is by long distance and with 2 soldiers at checkpoint diving out of the way as the driver was in the attempts of running them down as an apparent convoy fled the village. This convoy consisted of several vehicles. Keita stared at the man. His orders, as you know from GRU and SVR, were for him to do recon and report back. Then he received another from Igor. Protopopkov detail enter to try to contain the situation, only to find that they themselves were now surrounded by Ukrainian para-specialist forces, and those that could not fight their way out were captured. They are a spasnast where they're there to search. We've lost 37 men, captured or dead, and one who cannot tell us anything of information we could use, because your brother's idiot actions and his repeated failure to listen to order, to which I told you, Keita, responsibility for assigning him this much sensitive issue is on your head. The GRV general invaded Keita's personal space as he leaned on the man's desk and blew the cigar smoke into his face. Keita backed up. He found what the wolves left of Igor by his Sikatar interesting as it is. What is more interesting, he found a passport and flight schedule and paperwork for Switzerland amongst what was left of the remains. He appears to have kept them close to his person. Makes one think he may have been thinking of making money off of our leader. As I have said before, my friend, as all Igor was, he not a known blackmailer, as was your father. And why do you suppose his accounts were closed? but no funds were found on him. They are gone. Also was found a cracked cell phone by the body of a casualty. This is found by our man who has lost his leg. He bagged them to bring back. However, there was a lot of quiet until he sees a boy and girl. He follow. They see him. Not very smart on his end when a child or two can see a man who wants to become SVR. And then they disappear into a series of damaged buildings, so they were not found. He continued to search, but as no luck in finding these two refugees. What do two left-behind children have to do with this? The general stepped back to look down at him. Eventually, he sees movement. He follows, but loses them once more. Hours go by as he is searching. He goes street by street and finds a destroyed church that has entrance to basement via a caved-in wall. He steps away, but only briefly. An hour passes and he sees the children from where he has climbed on the nearby roof. They, like rats, scurry into the basement hole. He hears voices of a woman and a Russian-accented male, and the cries of what he believes is a young cat or kitten. So he crosses the roof for a better view of whole. Only the roof under his feet, now it falls in, and the building collapses under him to have him hit the yard. He scrambles out and heads for the street. He attempts to make contact with comrades, only his radio is damaged in the fall. Now he follows, and there he is to spot movement of 4 persons. He singles Topofkov and darts into a building to cut through the block. Now he is coming out of the front of the abandoned store. He runs towards where he saw the children originally disappear at, and as he turns the corner, he hears a vehicle in the alley where he, prior, loses the children. He singles another soldier that he sees, and they take up position. This is to block the exit of the alley. The other soldier has radio. He then charges and is radioing for his officer to bring troops. The radio does not transmit properly. There are several other soldiers with radio problems as well, as he is having issues as well with our own outdated equipment, but several are on the way to the position. What happens next, we are unsure of as to why there was no responding of the troops for several moments. Some say they were engaged by Ukraine forces, others that they got lost and turned around by noises echoing from the buildings. A few even say they see spirits or ghosts of 4 dead. Old couple, very well dressed, and who they thought may be Dmitri. 2 other older men. It fits descriptions, and he thought when followed to a building that looked like it was fashion design. Then, poof, he and the dog he was with, they are gone, all of them. We have been told of other sightings of paranormals in the village where those have died. I do not believe in ghosts, but they search and find no sign of these peoples, but that of the 3 hand-dug graves in the yard. This is after the issue when they find 2 deceased and destroyed bodies in an old jewelry store. This after the issue with the vehicle escape and 2 of our people being injured. Then they are left to fight Ukraine forces. We airlift a total of 6 of the 35 Too injured. We cannot retrieve our dead and dying." Kita shuddered, but tried to hide it by drumming his fingers on the desk. Protopopka found them in another street, but one over as he ran through the street and came out in front of the van. And as he advanced, the other soldier who is with him is now entangled in wires and cords and cannot get loose from the building. As he sees the van turning the corner into the main road and they are joined by others, he shouts for them to stop, raises the weapon, and then he pulls the trigger, aiming for the woman driver. The rifle is jammed. He did not get his hand on his sidearm when he was hit by the man leaving from the front truck. So, a Ukraine refugee? And others? Yet, she then aims for the other soldiers as she leads this caravan of 4 or 5, maybe even 6. They lose count as they sped by, and the man has to dive away. Then they is found as his comrade is trying to get them out of there as the radios would not transmit. There was interference, and they have never suffered before, and they are shouting about spirits and the dead villagers. This was an hour or more later with the Ukrainian forces' advances. They barely got them evacuated when the firefight began, and we lost many. He turned Igor's items in with the phone. That is the odd witness. How so? Kita asked. All is recorded of what Igor did, including shooting not only student teacher, but also Peter Gromanov, the mechanic that is friends with this teacher from the same village of Vyborg, and 2 other soldiers. Then the phone is dropped after its owner is shot by Igor, and yet still is recording the remaining men open fire on Igor. Then the sound of them leaving with the crackling of flames before the phone runs out of power. There is a record of a child going by and the sound of something that the child wants more, but is dragging Dmitri. His body, he is groaning. So, he is alive? Protopopka did not ID his assailant, but Vankov, the second soldier, said he thinks it was him. Your Ukrainian refugee was Dmitri. He is well and alive with this child, and a woman was driving. He crushed a cigar in Kita's desktop, and he has these blaya photos. He removed the phone from his pocket to drop it on the desk. Part of the village was engulfed by flames. As it appears, the fire that was started to burn the military clothing was caught up by the winds that blew in the direction of the outer part of the village, and was only stopped by the creek that flows along the south side. When we had a surveillance done by plane, the church where the children came from was surrounded by flames, as was the synagogue, and yet there were not engulfed when the flames were put out and our people went to investigate. There was a number of, they think, gas pipes beneath the ground, natural gas. And our lead officers were buried alive in an explosion that suffocated to death in the felled rubble. Among them was your younger brother, Peter Kashkov. Peter Kashkov stormed to his feet. The general did not move. You are SVR, former KGB. Do your job. Find this teacher. Eliminate him and them with him. Make them gone. And damn it to hell, make sure you retrieve those blyer photos before they turn up on someone's Twitter, Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok, or God help us all, and goes viral like Doxy Din and Puppy Jay's Sunday, or Crusoe and Daphne, or Oakley and Delilah. And that effing YouTube. The general's eyes twitched. He stepped away, shaking, and turned to walk out. Cashcott fell back into his chair. He opened his second report, but not before he viewed the footage from the phone. You idiot! And how do I know? Does he know about Doxy Din and Puppy Jay's Sunday? Or Crusoe and their friends? Interesting. I wonder if he is a follower or a subscriber. That would prove to be interesting. Cashcott sat there laughing. He turned the phone off and put it into his briefcase. Scanning the new paperwork, he found what he hoped would give him a leave. White Za-Travia delivery van. 2 sliding front doors, Ukraine vehicle. Where would you go? 2 children. A man and a woman with the possibility of a cat. He opened the file he had on Dmitri, then picked up his coffee mug and took the hip flask from the drawer to pour a drizzle into it. University graduate. Teacher. Degree. But he has extra classes in construction. He was drafted, so, bank account. He opened the paperwork to look down. 1,351 rubles. He laughed to himself. Our government froze his account for so little. He looked at the curriculum taken in school. Interesting. He is an expert in languages. High grades in German, Polish, Ukraine, Lithuanian. He could have been an interpreter. His French and Spanish is so good. Italian is fair, excellent in English. Keita rose to pick up the file and the reports. He put them in one binder. As he left, he started to make arrangements for his exit of Russia to start his hunt. This needed to be cleared up by himself before he became the hunted by the most powerful mafia boss in the world for failure. This was not an option. And there, folks, we will leave you at this time. I thank you for visiting. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have, please give me a thumbs up. And subscribe to hear more. I hope that the growling, arguing, back and forth, roughhousing did not diminish the enjoyment for you. Like all puppies, our puppies are kind of crazy. Thank you for visiting The Mouse Says. I am Nico Scher, the unpublished writer of these stories under the pen name of Cheryl Ann Butler. We wish you a good day. So mote it be.